Hello. Well,
How are you?
welcome to Women in Law Talks today. In today's live event, we are speaking with Satang Nabaneh, a trailblazing legal scholar, African feminist, and passionate advocate for gender equality and human rights. My name is Alix from Thomaser, and I'm the president of the Women in Law Initiative. We connect and support women in the legal profession worldwide and honor them with the Justitia Awards. Satang Nabaneh is a research professor at the University of Dayton, Ohio, and was honored as a Justitia Award laureate in 2023. Her work focuses on African human rights, feminist legal theory, and reproductive justice. She has led programs and policy works across the continent, including at the Center of Human Rights at the University of Pretoria, where she shaped legal education on sexual and reproductive rights. Through her research, advocacy, and mentoring, she continues to be a powerful voice for marginalized communities and women in law. A warm welcome, Satang, and
Thank you.
congratulations on your inspiring career.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for the award and being able to join this incredible community of women in law. So, yeah, immensely grateful. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. Well, before we talk more in detail maybe about this year awards and your later career, I would like to go back in your beginning of your career. What inspired you to pursue a legal career in the first place?
Yeah, that's a big question. But I think part of the inspiration for me, I think, was just this idea that there was I had a deep-seated belief in justice and a desire to be a voice for those who might otherwise go unheard. So obviously, as you know, and many people know, I was a child activist. I was an activist my whole life. Basically, I grew up in the public space, but I was a child rights activist at the age of 8. And so I think growing up in that space, I've always been drawn to stories of advocacy and the power of the legal system to effect positive change, right? So I was part of, especially around that time, and I wouldn't say the years because then you'll know my age, but it was like in the early 2000s, right? When there was a lot of push, especially around, children-friendly laws and with the UNCRC as well as the African Children's Charter. And so I could see the immense power of the law. But also, I noticed as well that we needed to have people that were passionate and that were committed to justice and human rights to be in that space, right? And so I think it was just natural, right, that my activism and my advocacy journey obviously led me to study law. So I see law definitely as a tool as a crucial tool, especially for upholding rights, but also ensuring fairness in society as well. Yeah.
Has there been a specific event in your life that played a decisive role in working in the legal field? Maybe some
Yeah, no,
specific mentoring person?
yeah, yeah, Oprah has these aha moments, right? I don't think there was a single aha moment for me, right, that really played a decisive role. But as I just said, I think just seeing firsthand the how overwhelming and daunting and inaccessible the legal system can be, especially with proper guidance, but particularly for vulnerable populations, whether those are women, whether girls or children generally. And also, as I mentioned, given my then existing background as a child rights activist and seeing the struggles firsthand, I think it ignited, right, this desire that I could have a decisive role to play, right, in the legal profession, and not just for legal representation, right, but for really empowering affected communities to amplify and elevate their voices in this space. And so it solidified my desire to pursue law, not just as a quote unquote as an academic pursuit, right, but truly as a way to demystify legal processes for others, but also being able to highlight the human element of the legal work, whether, legal representation, sitting on the bar, sitting on the bench rather, or in academia, or for the incredible people that also work in civil society. I think there was this desire that the legal profession has a bigger role to play in the lives of people, not just for an educated few. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
As an inspiring and brilliant women in law, how do you manage your work-life balance?
I'm the wrong person to ask that question. I mean, a lot of people will tell you I'm a wrong person to ask that question. One, because I'm over ambitious. I mean, with 2 PhDs and all the books that I publish, but also I am a type A person as well. But no, I mean, on a serious note, I think it's a continuous journey, and I mean, I'm sure, especially esteem and experienced people like yourself obviously know that it is an ongoing journey as well. But I found a couple of things I think that that have been effective, right? Whether strategies and so forth. I think one is that I have a village, right? So a community of mentors, supporters, work colleagues, friends globally, right? And I always teach people and tell them, you know what? Everywhere I go, I actually have a friend. I can say, can we have lunch, or can we have dinner, or can we have coffee, right? I know these are small things, but honestly, I think having a supportive community, both at work and in your personal life, I think is incredibly important, as well as being obviously intentional with one's time and energy as well. I think the other key thing for me has been prioritization, right? Prioritization to say and identify what truly matters, and not just what truly matters, but what aligns obviously, right, with your values, and learning to say no. I'm trying to do better with saying no. I say a lot of yes. I say a lot of yes because I mean, I think that's also part of the space that we're in. When people make requests and I mean, especially for younger female lawyers or researchers, when they ask me to review a proposal or review a dissertation, I mean, I'm gonna jump and say yes, right? Because I am where I am because of the support, the mentorship, and the guidance of so many women out there, and so giving back obviously is necessary. But I also know that this can be a tough field. So recognizing and prioritizing obviously one's well-being, I think, is critical as we think about work-life balance. But as I said, I don't have the checklist.
But you said something extremely important. That is, when you have achieved something, you should give the hand to others to allow them to achieve something important. And I think this is a key role we can play in order to help our sisters around the world.
Yeah. Truly, and honestly, yes, absolutely.
What tips would you pass on to a young female lawyer or becoming lawyer?
Yeah, I think my biggest tip will be, and I mean, I'm an example of not going down the traditional route of legal profession, but also showcasing the immense possibility of what you can do in the legal field. You don't just have to go to court. You just have to be in academia. You just have to be. There are so many, I think, unique opportunities, and so I think for me, my biggest tip for young female lawyers will be to embrace their unique strengths and perspective, right? Because I believe that the legal field obviously benefits from diverse voices and representation. So for young female lawyers or those that are aspiring to be, is to not be afraid to challenge the status quo, right? Because I mean, at some point, I think it is important that people within the legal profession are able to critically engage with and ensuring that diverse voices, experiences are leveraged, are centered, and those whose voices are usually not heard are elevated and amplified as well. We already talked about mentors, but I think the other thing that I've learned over the past decade or more than a decade or so being in this field is really to seek out mentors, right? I know there's a whole thing now about sponsorship, so sponsorship is important as well. I mean, I'm sure we could have a whole life around that, but really try to seek out mentors, and not just people that look like you, people that don't just have your background, right? But obviously these are individuals and women who you can look up to based on their experiences, both professionally as well as personally, I think is very valuable because they can definitely provide guidance as well as insights, especially given their own unique perspective as well. As a legal scholar, I am very high up there in terms of my list of priorities. Is to say to prioritize continuous learning and development. As we all know, I think the world is constantly evolving, but most especially the law is constantly evolving, right? I mean, with the explosion of digital innovations and AI and everything else that we're seeing, right? I think it is truly and honestly important that aspiring young female lawyers or young female lawyers stay curious, are open to learning and adapting, because then it keeps you at the top of the game. If you know what's happening, if you engage with people outside of your circle, if you read more, learn more, I think definitely will be important. And I think the last thing I will say is perhaps, and it will be funny coming from me, is to be kind to yourself, right? And also taking a break as well, being kind to yourself and taking a break, because we know generally the legal profession obviously can be demanding. And so learning to take a pause, right, and celebrating your successes, but also learning from the setbacks, because setbacks are going to happen. Things are not going to go as always as you will desire or want, but learning from that, picking yourself up and moving on and ensuring that your well-being is obviously prioritized, I think, especially, and building a supportive system, as I said, I think, are ways that, young female lawyers or those aspiring to get into the legal profession can use as a way of getting the best out of the legal profession. Because I mean, as I said, there is so much incredible opportunity to be what you desire, but also to be able to give back, which I think is the most important quality of the legal profession, from my own perspective.
Right,
Yes.
right, completely right. I can only agree. Do you have one